Let's get ready to rumble! He's taken another one, and Howard Foster has stopped it!
This is Thomas Lyons on Raps on TV. I'm fortunate to be joined this Sunday evening with heavyweight contender Tom Little ahead of his career-defining fight against David Price next weekend. How's everything going, Tom?
I'm all good, my man. I'm all good. Ready for war. War ready.
Ready for war. I know we've got topping the bill Whyte-Chisora, but obviously focusing on yourself, War Little. Is that your mentality going into next week's fight with David Price? And how do you see the fight unfolding?
Do you know what? I see the fight unfolding in a very, very, very good way for me. I've worked hard. I've trained hard. And I just will not let nothing define me. You know, for once, I'm in a hard fight where I'm a little bit of the favourite. Like, I'm not just getting counted out before I even get in there. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Like, I know a lot of fighters say they don't take no notice of the stuff that's on social media and stuff. But listen, we're all human. You can't help but have a look to what people are saying. And to be honest with you, I'm getting more people think I'm going to knock David out than people think David's going to knock me out. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm buzzing. I just want to go out and do what I know I can do and I'm capable of. Listen, David's a great guy, a lovely guy. I've got a lot of time for him. Good friend of mine.
Yeah.
But this is business, and unfortunately, the business we're in is very physical and painful at times.
Yeah, and I mean you've shared the ring with a lot of top quality up and coming heavyweights, the likes of Hrgovic previously, and you've obviously had that experience at a very good level. And do you see, in terms of this stage of your career, do you think the wider boxing fraternity have seen the best of Tom Little yet?
I don't. If I'm honest with you, I don't think people have seen one of my legs.
Yeah.
I don't think they've seen a quarter of me.
Yeah.
Because I know I've got so much more to offer. I've took fights that really, if I was getting looked after and I was in a situation where I was signed and whatever, what have you not, I wouldn't have took them there because a good team would not allow me to. But at the same time, there's some things that you've got to do when you've got a young family dependent on you and you get offered these chunks of money.
Yeah.
You've got to do what's right by your career, because my career is to provide for my family.
100%.
And the one thing is, after Saturday night, after I'm victorious, after I go and do what I know I've got in me to do, I won't change anything about taking hard fights. I'll always be in hard fights, because that's what I think that people pay their money to come out and see.
Yeah.
I think that's what people deserve. They're paying these things. Then we're entitled as athletes to give people some bang for their buck.
Yeah, no, you definitely hit the nail on the head there, talking about how you are taking this progressive step towards, in a way you could describe it, a revival really for your career, but also the fact that before you made the transition to the pro ranks, you had certain aspirations of, competing in the domestic scene and beyond. And do you feel like at this stage now that there is still time for you to fulfill that potential, Tom?
Listen, I'm young as a heavyweight. I'm 31 years old.
Yeah.
I've moved at an odd pace, but if anything, if I'm honest, I'm an overachiever from where I come from, because I didn't box as an heavyweight as an amateur.
Yeah.
I've done well as an amateur, but I never even had any dreams ever of turning professional. It was sheerly by chance that I turned professional.
Yeah.
And if I told you I walked into a gym to get fit to have a fight outside, because there was a discrepancy, and everyone knows in my community that's how we deal with stuff. I'm not saying it's the right way to deal with it, but listen, that's just how we do stuff.
100%.
We get it done and we get it squashed.
Yeah, and
one thing led to another. A former British and Commonwealth champion, Graham Ingamel, saw me, said he could do something with me. And next thing you know, 6 weeks down the line, I'm having my professional debut.
Yeah.
So, if anything, from where I fought and where the fact that I'm fighting on a pay-per-view card against an Olympian at the O2 on Sky Sports, to me, I'm an overachiever. The fact that I'm giving my family a quality of life out of something that I never knew that I could do, I'm an overachiever. But I know I've got a British title in me. I know I've got that in me.
Yeah, no, the utmost credit goes to you, because I mean, when you talk about situations where you have to fend for your family and also provide. I mean, boxing can be a great way out of certain situations and for people taking the wrong path. But you've obviously used boxing as a good platform for you then to go on and provide for your family, be as ambitious as you can. And do you feel that, you're telling me now that you didn't have the most decorated amateur career, but do you feel in terms of overachieving that there is still, from the time you're boxing as an amateur to the time you're boxing as a professional, that there is a lot more areas that you can improve on and elevate yourself to get big title shots and bigger fights in the division?
There's always plenty of places I can improve. I never stop wanting to improve. I never stop trying to improve. I know that I know that there's certain areas that I can maneuver myself in this domestic division and really, really, really shake it up.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we need dance partners. Unfortunately, a lot of the heavyweights ain't like myself, who will fight anyone who wants to give people good fights. To me, even when I had an O to lose, I weren't bothered about losing it.
Yeah.
I was bothered. Do you know what I mean? I weren't bothered about losing it. Not because I didn't care. Listen, nobody wants to lose, but I want to be in a fight.
Yeah.
And I understand this is a sport, and I understand there's got to be a winner and there's got to be a loser. Now, the people that follow me, I get quite a few people come out and follow me, which I'm very grateful and very blessed for.
Yeah.
But I know them all. If I'm out in the town, I know them all to stand and talk to and to have a drink with, and I know how hard they work for their money. Now, for them to come and give a chunk of their weekly salary, which is a chunk by the time they buy their ticket, buy their drink, and have a night out to come and support me, they're given a chunk of their weekly wage. Now, I don't think that's very fitting for me to just pull some dead body out, someone who's coming there to survive. I respect the people that follow me too much to do that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And the one thing that I will know, when I'm done boxing, when I walk away from it and I give my earnings from my boxing to my little babies, I can look at them and say, your dad bled for that for you, and he dodged no one.
Yeah.
He dodged no one. Do you know what I mean? So on that respect alone, I'm very proud.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, that's probably the most important aspect, the fans providing. I mean, in a sense, boxing is down to the fans and the hard earned money to come to the shows and provide for an audience that go out and watch the boxers every week at different shows. But also the fact that you're not someone that ducks anybody. You're always putting your heart on your sleeve and always willing to commit to these risky fights and put yourself on the line to provide for the fans. So I have to give you the utmost credit and respect for that.
Listen, that's all you can have. Listen, at the end of the day, I'll never get hit with a shot and look for the ground. I'll never look for a way out. And anyone that ever pays to come and watch me fight can never ever say that, he was there to make the numbers up. I will go out on my shield, whether I'm getting outgunned or outmaneuvered or outboxed. I will go out on my shield. I will put it all on the line, and I will give my heart and soul. And listen, I think that's what people deserve, because without, like you just said, without no fans, there ain't no fighters.
100%.
If they ain't coming out to watch us, then who's going to pay our wages?
Most definitely.
Nobody. So I'm very grateful for people, and I think that's the least they deserve. They deserve that. They deserve you to put that. Maybe some other fighters can take a leaf out of my book and start giving these people that. Even though boxing's in a good place at the minute.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, most definitely. And just turning my attention to next weekend's fight with David Price. You mentioned there that he's a good friend of yours and that it is business for you at the end of the day. But what frailties and weaknesses do you see in David Price that you can seek to exploit on Saturday night, Tom?
Listen, without being too disrespectful, I'm an honest man, and I'll never ever be anything other, because I'll say exactly to David what I'd say to you guys on an interview.
100%.
David, attributes-wise and boxing ability-wise, he's got the tools to stand me on my head. And that's not me being a defeatist, or if you like, I'm just being real with people.
Yeah.
But, and there's a big but in that, the David that I've seen in the gym should be a world champion 3 times over. Unfortunately, that David don't ever come to the ring since Tony Thompson. And this fight will come down, at one point or the other, this fight will come down to who wants it more and who wants to go into that dark place. Now, I was born and bred in a dark place, and I'm definitely not scared of it, and I definitely will never shy away from it, and I would definitely never ever sit down and say, no, I'm done. And unfortunately, I think it's going to come down to a battle of art between me and David, and I believe my heart is stronger, and that's that.
Yeah, and do you believe the stage fright of the big events? We see David Price fight Povetkin on the Joshua undercard in front of 80,000 plus people at the Principality Stadium. Do you think the stage fright and the overwhelming atmosphere of certain situations downplays David Price to some extent, without being disrespectful, like you said?
I think it all plays a part. Like, in fairness to David, he was fighting well against Povetkin in that fight.
Yeah, he had him rocked at some stage.
He had him rocked.
Yeah.
He had him really rocking. But there's no way a tall, strong man like that should be getting the gap closed on him so easily. And when I watched David do 10 rounds with 2 different sparring partners and do it comfortably, do it with ease.
Yeah.
And then you go and watch him start blowing up and asking himself questions after 3-4 rounds in a fight. That tells you that it's got to be nervous energy. Because I've watched work hard, I've been close to him. I'm one of them people that's fortunate. I've learned so much of David. Like, I've done a lot of rounds sparring with him. I've learned so much from him. Like, obviously, I saw his weaknesses. And I ain't gonna lie, I didn't need a lot of convincing to take the fight.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, if you're looking at this fight, looking at the breakdown of certain attributes that favour him and other attributes that suit you more, if you kind of weigh up the dynamics of the fight, you look at David Price as a tall, rangy opponent that's got long arms, got a good jab. But do you see that for you, the relentlessness to get on the inside and also pressurise Price in this fight, is that going to be something you're going to use to your advantage, to get up on the inside, get on his chest and force the fight to him?
Yeah, believe it or not, I've got fast hands and fast feet. So
yeah,
that'd be what I'll be using that night. I can throw a lot of punches around. Like you said, I can be relentless when I need to be. And that's what I plan on doing. I'm not just looking for one shot on David.
Yeah.
I'm looking to make him work. I'm looking to make him uncomfortable, and just take him out of that comfort zone until the occasion arises where I can land that finishing shot or finishing shots upon him and just do what we want to do. But the one thing that I do, like, listen, to me, boxing's a sport and a business.
Yeah.
And whatever way it goes, I want to wish David if he listens to this, I want to wish him the very best of luck and health. And as long as I'll shake his hand afterwards, whether I win or lose, whether he wins or loses, and as long as both of us got young families, as long as both of us go home safe and sound to our little babies, that is the main thing.
Yeah.
To me, and that is the main thing, because for all the money in the world, I wouldn't wish no harm on David, and I wouldn't wish no harm upon myself.
No,
so,
yeah. No, well said. That was a very no. It's a good outlook to have on the boxing business. It can be a very hard sport at times, and we've seen in recent weeks the likes of Adonis Stevenson in a critical condition, someone who served the sport 11 WBC title defences, and I mean, it's not the first, and it's unfortunately, God forbid, it won't be the last, but boxing can be a very brutal sport at times, and the severity of the sport as well. That's why fighters like yourself put such diligence and preparation into big fights like that. You have to have the respect for boxers, because they're the ones putting their hearts on the line at the end of the day.
Of course, that's what, and that is what I mean. Like, obviously, I've been on the backlash sometimes on Twitter and on other social media, and you hear some people say some right nasty stuff. And I hear through this year, I've heard some people saying some nasty stuff about David.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and do you know what? I just think to myself, listen, anything I ever say, if I rub people up or fans up the wrong way, I'm not. Everything I say, I'm saying for a reason, and that's towards the person. That if I'm trying to get a reaction out of someone, I'm trying for a reason. I'm not saying it against any of the fans. It's not meant to be taken out of context. It's between me and the person that I'm speaking to. So when they're coming out with stuff, they should remember that we're putting our life on the line for their entertainment. Whether they like me or like David or like any fighter, just people should just think a little bit more before they speak. Do you know what I mean? Because we're doing a job. It's my job to rub people up the wrong way.
Yeah.
My mouth has got me into some good fights. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not doing it on any other scale. To trust me, if you asked any of my friends who I consider close friends,
yeah,
and people that know me personally, they know I'd rather help anyone than hinder them. I'd rather give someone my last tenner out of my pocket than take a tenner out of theirs.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
100%.
So it's a horrible thing when you hear of people like Adonis Stevenson, champion warriors. They go out, they give it all on the line, they end up getting a bad injury, and like that, and you think it puts a lot in perspective for you. Do you know what I mean? Because as easy as that, God in heaven forbid that was me or any other fighter that I know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
so
very.
People need to be careful in what they say.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think as well, when you look at it from particularly for ourselves as a boxing platform that are looking to cover the grassroots side of the sport, the small hall shows right through to the mainstream cards, we do ourselves look, me and my colleagues, we do see a lot of negativity on social media, but to be honest, from my perspective, I'm not focused on the negative side of things, the negative comments that are put towards boxers, because at the end of the day, any Tom, Dick and Harry on the street can say to a fighter, oh, well, you're useless, or say something like that. But will they actually then go to that person and say it to their face, or will they be able to appreciate what fighters put on the line for the sake of their entertainment, and for also the fact that a lot of people nowadays, when they do put a negative comment towards a fighter, they tend to be the next day wanting to get a photo of them. So there's a lot of conspicuousy with boxing, especially the casual fans, because there's a lot of negativity portrayed on social media that isn't really justified for when fighters step in the ring to fight.
100%. 100%. And you can't. To be honest with you, I've never really took anything personal what anyone said to me anyway. And exactly what you say, and the way I look at it is, they know who I am, I don't know who they are, and there's a reason for that, and it's all part and parcel of the job. In any industry where you're known to the public, you end up, it happens. There's arseholes in all walks of life. That's the only way I can say it. But like you said, I know not one of them would come and say it personally to my face, because they know I'd bury my foot in their arse.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It just puts a damp on things. It don't bother me. You know when it's a about myself,
Yeah.
I laugh.
Well, that's the way you've got to go about it, really, Tom, because you can't have these people that are going to. It's not everyone in boxing. It's only the minority of people that like to rub people up the wrong way. But at the end of the day, they're not dictating to you who you fight. They're not dictating to you the wealth of opportunities that you get from boxing or who you're providing for or other aspects of the sport. They just seem to be the ones that tune in, like to see someone get beat and then jump on the bandwagon and say, oh, that this person wasn't up to scratch, they didn't live up to the hype. But at the end of the day, they're not the ones in the ring doing the fighting.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. But believe it or not, it offends me more when they're slagging off me mates.
Yeah.
It upsets me more. I take it more personally. I'm like, like, what are they talking about? Do you know what I mean? But when it comes on about when they're talking about me, I'm like, oh, give over. Just go and get yourself laid or something. Do you know what I mean? Get out your mum's basement. For God's sake. She's 35 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. But anyway, taking away from the negatives and focusing on your fight and your preparation, both physically and mentally. I mean, in terms of a close friend of yours, someone that's been in the spotlight recent weeks with the massive show out in LA, Wilder Fury, and the mental health side of things as well. Using Tyson's mental health story, the way he's come back, the way he's taken himself away from that dark patch and the trials and tribulations that he's gone through. If you take the last two fights that you've had, they weren't the results that you weren't against Dubois and Hrgovic, but on a mental side of things, how well prepared are you for the David Price fight that you weren't perhaps prepared for in recent fights on a mental side of things?
Do you know what? I couldn't be more mentally prepared for a fight. I'm very mentally strong anyway. As a fighter, you have your ups, and I'm not being rude or anything to any other fighters there, and anyone that suffers with mental illness and anything. But all fighters got to be a bit wired up the wrong way for us to do what we do.
Yeah.
Because a sensible person wouldn't put their body through what we put ourselves through.
Yeah.
But when you see someone, when you look at someone like who's a close friend of mine, when I look at Tyson and what he's done, the weight he's got off, the issues he's beat, and how he's come back, and what he's done in that time, it can't help but inspire you. It can't help. And when I look and I think, you know what? The worst I've got is 2 losses to come back. I'm coming off the back of 2 losses. That man, what he's overcome, and I think if he can overcome that and fight for a world heavyweight title again, and go and give an arse beating like that again on foreign soil, then it just makes my job going to London and giving a beating seems so much easier.
Yeah.
And I'm pressureless, and that's the beautiful thing about it. I'm going into this with 0 pressure, none. Because I genuinely, I'm one of them people that I'm happy no matter what. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to be displeased. You be disappointed. Everybody wants to win. Everyone's got a plan. But the thing for me is, as long as I go out and I do what I know I can do. Now, with Daniel, I was quite limited. I was unfortunate. I snapped my hand in 3 bits when I fought him. But at the end of the first round, I fought him with a left hook and I felt it go. And to be honest with you, the best day's work I done was not go back to my corner and sit down and pull out. I read it out, and I gave that boy so much sticks out through that there. I thought this boy deserves his chance to give me an island.
Yeah.
and you know what? Towards the end of it, I thought myself, I didn't make no excuses at the end of the fight. I didn't make no excuse. I went back and I congratulated him like a man, because I was happy with the myself, what I brought to the table, and the effort that I gave, considering.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, as from this here, I know I've got good people around me with good advice. People like Tyson, like Ben Davison, like Billy Joe, and I know the thing is, them boys have seen glimpses of what I can do, and they've seen me do stuff, and they know that. And they give me the best sound advice and the best tactical advice that I can. So I couldn't. For that, I'm blessed, and so all I've got to do is just go out and do what I need to do, and I know it will be enough and more, and then we'll look onto something bigger in the new year.
Yeah, no, definitely. And if you look at the modern heavyweight nowadays, I think personally there's only a handful of modern heavyweights that can move with good lateral upper body movement, evasive, are able to feign, pivot, and the instrumental aspects of boxing that kind of are diminished in a way. Away from the explosiveness that you need to have as a heavyweight, but also when you focus on the pure art of boxing, I look at yourself, I look at the likes of Nathan Gorman, Tyson at the top of the pecking order as those modern heavyweights that can move so orthodox and move so unilaterally that they're able to evade shots and punches. And I think as well, when I was watching the fight with yourself and Dubois, I thought the way that you imposed yourself on the inside and feinted and tried to deter Dubois from coming forward was showed glimpses of that evasiveness that we sometimes talk about in boxing. And I thought as well, the likes I know you're good friends with the likes of Billy Joe Saunders, Tyson Fury, and they're the pure artists of boxing. And I think as well you've replicated certain aspects of the pure art in your fights that most people probably don't pick up on, but that obviously credit to your style and the way you focus on your advantages in big fights.
Well, yeah. See, the last time I boxed an amateur, I was a middleweight.
Yeah.
So I boxed with that bit of twitch and that middleweight style, and plus when you're around, I was brought up on a saying, you lay with dogs, you get fleas. So you can't help but pick up. You can't help but pick up things when you're around people. So I'm a sponge anyway, and I'm always watching people and observing. And like my style makes easy work of a lot of fighters.
Yeah.
Like all I've got to do is get myself. I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke. All I need to do is get my nutrition right, get my nutrition right, and a bit of strength and conditioning training.
Yeah.
And that's everything that I believe, and I can home in on the good points that I've got. Do you know what I'm saying? And that there to me is enough to win domestic and European titles. I know that.
Yeah.
I know that. I've mixed. I've got friends. I've got pals who sit and witness me bounce the head off of world level fighters. And I'm not just saying like bounce the head. I mean poleaxe them, like make them look stupid.
Yeah.
So all I just got to do is just own it in. I'm at the point now where I can take a bit more vigilance. I'm not so desperate just to get a pay. Do you know what I mean? I'm at the point now where I can really invest in myself and make sure that I get it right and make sure that I do what's right and take the right fights at the right time. After beating Price, when I beat Price, because I don't see it going any other way.
Yeah.
After I beat Price, I will be an A-side fighter. I won't be a B-side fighter anymore. So I'll have more say and more pulling power about when I fight, who I fight. I still want hard fights. What people define hard fights. If someone looked at me and said, "Who would you fight?" What's the name? The easiest name I'd pick would be Dave Allen.
Yeah, that was going to lead me on to my next question, actually, Tom, because, I mean, God willing, with the win over Price next weekend, what would be your ambitions after Saturday night's fight? Would it be to contest for a British title, perhaps, if that becomes vacant? Or would it be to just have the biggest fights at this stage of your career? You see the likes of Hughie Fury, Joe Joyce, Dave Allen, like you mentioned. Are those the bracket of fighters that you're looking to have fights with in 2019 when you come through on Saturday night?
Listen, I'd want a Dave Allen, a Lucas Brown, Ross, Takam, any one of them guys, pull them out, we'll have a punch up. And listen, to me, belts are lovely things, beautiful things, but I want to be in big fights.
Yeah.
And I want to be in big. If you notice, the three names that I've just mentioned all have the same sort of style and the same sort of thing in common. And I know I'd leave their face like a butcher's block. So, and that's just the long and the short of it. They suit me.
Yeah.
And that is the only way I can put it is they suit me. Their style is so compatible for mine. Whereas if you look at David Price, he's got every attribute to stick my eyebrows to the lighting. Do you know what I mean? So it is one of them things. I'm not saying that they can't beat me, because look, David Price got all the attributes to beat me. But what I tell you, this is only going one way.
Yeah.
There's only one thing happening on Saturday, because I know a system to beat.
Yeah.
I know it. I've got it, and I will exploit it.
Yeah. And what's your take on the main event, the highly anticipated rematch between another two top heavyweight contenders at the moment? I mean, perhaps it's last chance saloon for Derek Chisora at this level. Dylan Whyte seems to be improving fight by fight. What's your assessment of that fight, and do you think it will live up to the expectation of the first fight?
You know what? Me and Dylan had this the other day. Right? Dylan thought I was on toe-to-toe and I was picking Derek over Dylan.
Yeah.
Right? And it weren't that at all. What I'm saying is, I don't want to say nothing negative about Derek because of the respect I've got for Don.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
But when you look at it, from the last fight, I think, personally myself, my opinion,
yeah,
Dylan Whyte is the more improved fighter. And because he was in control of the fights that he's had since then. He was in control of them all the way through. To me, I don't know, Don probably had me by the throat for saying this, I feel like Derek pulled a shot out against Takam. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I thought he pulled a shot out. That's heavyweight boxing.
Yeah.
But anyway, if I was a betting man, I'd say Dylan.
Yeah. And I mean, if you look at a mutual connection with the likes of, with Billy Joe Saunders, particularly in an earlier stage of his career, Dylan's made the transition to Mark Tibbs, and it seems that fight by fight under Mark's tutelage, that he's made significant improvements. You see in his nutrition, you see the way he's taken himself out of his comfort zone in South London and gone up to Loughborough University to train there. How much of an impetus do you see Mark Tibbs having on Dylan's career, especially at this elite level?
Mark Tibbs is a cut from his dad's block.
Yeah.
A very knowledgeable man with boxing, because he's been brought up around it.
Yeah.
A very cute guy with boxing, knows the sport, and he knows the nutritional side of it, which is a bit more advanced than when Jimmy was training that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A great trainer. He's gonna be one of them trainers that has an influence on any fighter that he puts his hands on. Do you know what I'm saying? The same as Don. Don's a great trainer, and I've been with Don on numerous occasions. He's a very influential, very big character in the corner. And Mark's the same. Mark's a very good trainer and a very good technical coach. Mark is. He owns it in, and I don't see this fight setting fire the way the first one did. And I'm going to tell you for why. I don't think Mark will let it.
Yeah.
I don't think Mark will allow it, because Mark knows Mark's a clever man. Mark will say to Dylan, you can make this an easy fight or an hard one. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's it. Dylan's got a brilliant jab, a lovely long jab. You don't need to go and mix it, do you?
No. So you believe that this fight is going to be the tactical affair as opposed to an all-out brawl? I mean, for the first fight, Derek, a lot of people had Derek winning a close fight on their scorecards, but in terms of the rematch, on the other hand, you got David Haye, who's been employed to give Chisora some impetus to his camp. You also have Mark Tibbs in Dylan's camp. So do you feel, from a tactical point of view, that Dylan potentially has the upper advantage with the harder fights that he's been in with the likes of Joseph Parker, Lucas Brown, and what he's learned from that 12th round knockdown in the Parker fight? Will that stand him in good stead for this rematch?
I think everything happens for a reason. I think everything tells its tale, and you learn from past fights. God knows I have. So I can't see. I just see the more beneficial work as of recent coming from the Dylan side, and that's my honest opinion. And like, I'm not being disrespectful towards Dom. I'm just like saying, I just feel that Dylan's come through the better tests more easy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He's made easier work of harder fights.
Yeah.
Not saying Lucas Brown, because Lucas Brown's a bum, my boy can beat Lucas Brown. But Joseph Parker's a great fighter.
Yeah.
So if you were to ask me that, then I'd 100%. I've got to go that way. But it's the beauty with heavyweight boxing, guys. Nobody ever knows.
Yeah.
So much can happen. Do you know what I mean? So much can happen.
No, 100%. There's a lot of hype surrounding this particular fight. Whyte-Chisora, you got yourself, and David Price on the undercard. But in terms of, you touched on earlier about you don't feel there's no pressure on your shoulders for this fight. But how grateful are you for the exposure that you're going to get from a Matchroom card, the exposure you're going to get from Sky Sports? And do you see this as the perfect opportunity for you to showcase your skills at this stage of your career, Tom, and prove a lot of people wrong?
Jump on. I've got the perfect springboard here for a big leap in my career. And for that, I want to thank Eddie Earn for holding his word and giving me the fight.
Yeah.
I want to thank Sky Sports for giving me the exposure, like getting me on the other day and everything, because they didn't need to do that, and I'm really appreciate that. Everything's being put in place for me to go and do what I know I can do. The only thing that needs to be done now is I need to go and back this up, and I need to go and do everything I can do. Do you know what I mean? Listen, God knows, I've put my poor fiance through hell going away to camp.
Yeah.
And I've done everything that I don't usually do. I've gone away. I've got my work done, and I just need to go out now, get this win, springboard me and my family into a position where we ain't really got to want for too much in life, other than the only hard thing I'm gonna have to do is go and leave my missus for 6 weeks at a time and get ready and get my face punched in.
Yeah. And Tom, just focusing on the I know the responsibility that you have to provide for your family. Do you see this as a sole motivation for you to take yourself away from your family environment and train for 6 upon 8 upon 10 weeks for massive fights? Do you see that as a sole motivation for you to get up every morning and pursue this massive fight with David Price on Saturday night?
Well, yeah, of course it is. That and my partner said if I don't win this one, I've not got a home.
Yeah.
You know what? It's a massive motivation to know that. Listen, my family's always been there in every fight that I've had, and they've always played a massive part. But this time here, I know that I'm running out of chances.
Yeah.
And I'm getting chances, and me and my partner sit down and had a chat and said, like, listen, you got to go and make the most of it. And to be fair, she supported me through going away. Neither one of us wanted me to go away. and do it, but we understand that it was a necessary evil, and it needed to be done. Now I just hope that we've proved us right, and we were not hope. So listen, to be fair, I've been trying to be as respectful as I can to David, but there's no doubt in my mind. I've never been more confident going into a fight. I've never been more confident going into a fight than I am in this one.
Yeah, no, we appreciate your honesty on the platform. And just two final things before I let you get back to your family, Tom. Just your thoughts on the Tyson Fury Wilder fight, the controversy surrounding the 115-111 scorecard. Did you feel that this was paint a bad picture for boxing? And also, do you think this robbed Tyson of the perfect comeback of putting that icing on the cake with a win over Wilder in LA?
Do you know what? They absolutely robbed him. What they've done was disgusting and disgraceful for boxing. And it just goes to show that to walk that WBC title out of America, you'll need a shotgun and a balaclava.
I couldn't agree more.
Because that was disgusting. And to do that to a man that's gone through everything that he's gone through and overcome everything he's overcome, you've got to ask yourself, what are these people doing?
Yeah. I mean, the English judge had it 113-113, which was beyond me. And I thought as well, the fact that the referee did play his part in the fight, it did compensate in a way for the... well, you can argue it did compensate for the controversy behind the scorecards, because a lot of referees in the UK probably would have stopped that fight in the 12th round hadn't they known that Tyson was unconscious for a split second. But I think as well, the divine aspect of the fact Tyson got up off the canvas showed the heart of a lion and a champion, that he is the lineal champion and he has imposed that status on the division. It did serve the sport bad because of the way the judges saw the fight and how they scored it.
That's what I mean. And do you know what the worst thing is? It was the English judge that messed it up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I know it's a crazy the amount of barriers with politics and governing bodies and sanctioning bodies. It kind of. Do you feel that this needs to be eradicated from the sport? Do you think that judges need to be held accountable for these decisions?
Most definitely need to be held accountable. They need to be held accountable. Let me tell you something. If a football ref makes a bad decision, he has to go and sit in front of the FA.
Yeah, that's true.
He has to. These seem to do stuff and make bad decisions and endanger people's health and do all sorts of madness, and they don't get so much as they get a couple of days of eat in the newspaper, if lucky, and that's about it.
Yeah.
They don't never see no consequences. You'll see them in a ref. It's like if you see someone make a bad decision in a FA Cup final game,
yeah,
you won't see them reffing in an FA Cup final anytime soon.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you know what I mean? They get demoted.
Yeah.
And that's what should happen with these referees and these judges. When they get caught out doing that, they say, all right, then obviously you can't be trusted to make a right decision on a big occasion.
Yeah.
Then we're going to stick you on some 4-rounders in your court.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No.
Don't do that. If you love the sport that much, you go down to your call on a Steve Goodwin show or whatever, and you do the scorecard in that.
Yeah, and do you believe that, particularly at the elite level, the upper echelons of the heavyweight division, do you think that the fact that this was such an elite level fight, that this needs to be reciprocated with the judging, and that the judging needs to be elite as well to be able to have proper judges that are going to score the fight fairly, and for each minute of every round they're going to be able to have their eyes fixated on the action, as opposed to the distractions behind the atmosphere in particular arenas, the distractions from certain political barriers. Do you feel that more judges need to focus on what's happening inside of the ring as opposed to outside?
What I believe should be done.
Yeah.
And this is what I believe should be done. You know how in football when teams are getting drawn out in a cup and they put all the balls in a thing, they should have a load of judges there.
Yeah.
On the night. Nobody knows who the judges are going to be. No one knows who the referee's going to be. And then on the night, the teams go and watch. Remember, you get someone that get your hands wrapped. You should have a member from each team go and watch the balls get drawn out of a pot, and you see who's judging the fight, and you see who's what's saying. Nobody picked the judges. It's fate who has them. And from that time then, our jury goes out, and nobody's allowed around the jury for a judgment of a court case. Then nobody should be allowed around the judges for that until the fight's over. So then it cuts out a lot of corruption.
Yeah. No, 100%. And who would you, just away from the whole corruption behind judges, who would you like to see Tyson face next? Would you like to see the immediate rematch, or would you like to see an all-domestic unification in terms of the titles that Joshua holds and the lineal status that Tyson hasn't lost inside the ring? Would you like to see the fight between Joshua and Fury, or would you like to see the rematch with Wilder?
Joshua don't want to fight Fury. Joshua, he's made that abundantly clear. He don't want to fight Fury.
Yeah.
I'd like to see. This is what I'd like to see. I'd like to see Tyson get a rematch with Wilder in UK.
Yeah.
Tyson smack the shit out of Beyonce, and then get his titles back off of Joshua.
Yeah.
Listen, there's no disputing it. We got the two best. Britain's got the two best heavyweights in the world. We've got the best fan base in the world.
Yeah.
Let's bring the biggest, best fight to our own country.
Yeah, but do you feel as well that the US, particularly Wilder's advisors, the likes of the Showtimes, the PBCs, do you think they're influencing this ability to hold that belt, that WBC belt hostage in America, and that's why it's proven so difficult for British fighters to go over to America and win decisions on a fair basis?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. You couldn't bet. I couldn't put that more bet myself. Yeah. They're definitely doing that.
Yeah, because I mean as well, when you look at it, we've had it numerous. Ricky Hatton's mentioned it. I know when he lost to Floyd Mayweather, he was talking about how he felt there was not necessarily with the fight, but the build up. There was a unfair treatment towards his camp in the build up to fight week. We've obviously seen numerous corrupt decisions in boxing. But do you feel the fact that Tyson, particularly having to overcome so many barriers, that it kind of from a moral perspective made the American judges, the American officials look worse for that not being given Tyson the fair treatment that he'd asked for so many times prior to the fight?
Yeah, they don't. You know what? It's just everything's like so snake-handed. Do you know they even had to have the canvas changed?
Yeah, I heard about that. Last minute was there was a different foam or a layer of foam that was changed. I know Peter Fury raised that concern in the build-up to the Klitschko fight on the day. There seemed to be a lot of dispute about the ring, and I mean as well, that's another factor that not a lot of people see that could have an effect on the fight, and also the fairness that we talk about, the justice of having a fair ground, a level playing field for both fighters and their camps.
This is what I mean. Like, we both. It's two men fighting, and they both got to stand on the same canvas.
Yeah.
But when one's relying on his footwork, and you feel like you're running on a mattress, your footwork ain't gonna last too long.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you know what I mean? So they do these silly things. You know what I mean? And it's all, a lot of it's mind games. I know they're going to get caught, but they think, we've got him watching that. Is he taking his eye over something? It's all psychological.
Yeah.
It's all psychological. Do you know what I mean? But listen, Tyson Fury's the master of psychological warfare, so they need to try and do something else to beat him. Yeah. The only thing I can do is to advise any of them boys, but if they think I'm beating him, they want to come with a bullet gun.
Yeah. And just finally, Tom, I know you've got a tight schedule and a lot of commitments elsewhere, but just finally with Billy Joe Saunders, another close friend of yours, I've seen numerous interviews and time that you've spent with Billy Joe as a close affiliate of you in the boxing world, but also as a friend. We see the whole commotion with the Massachusetts Commission stripping him of the WBO World Middleweight title. We also saw recently Demetrius Andrade got caught for possession of a handgun without a permit. Do you see that potential rematch being scheduled for next year, or do you think that the champions at middleweight are going to try and diverge away from Billy Joe, knowing that he is a legitimate threat to the division?
Wait, 1 second, Tash. Do you know what? I think they're going to keep a wide berth in. They kept a wide berth for him when he had a belt.
Yeah.
So when he hasn't got a belt, I can't see him running towards him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And we see we got Billy Joe on the undercard of Warrington Frampton next weekend. Do you see 2019 being the year that Billy Joe gets back to being at his best? And do you see him giving the likes of Canelo, who fought last night, Daniel Jacobs, the Golovkins, the Andrades, the Charlos of the division, do you see Billy Joe giving them serious problems in the future?
Yeah, listen, I don't believe there's a middleweight belt to beat Billy Joe, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I don't think Canelo can beat him. I just think his style is something of one of those, and you will never see the best. The better someone is that fights Billy Joe, the better Billy Joe gets.
Yeah. And just finally, Tom, just going to get a last prediction for yourself for the David Price fight. How do you see the fight unfolding? And do you predict a stoppage or a points victory on Saturday night?
Whatever way this fight goes, it's not going to points. I reckon between I'll get him out there within 6 rounds.
Perfect. It's been a pleasure having you on the platform tonight, Tom. We've nearly spoken for about an hour, so I utmost appreciate you giving me some of your time tonight, and I wish you all the best with the fight on Saturday. I wish you and your family a happy Christmas, and all the best for the future as well, Tom.
Listen, thank you for your coverage, and God bless you. Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure.
Thanks very much. Thomas Lyons, Raps on TV, Boxing News, Tom Little, all the best, champ, and we'll speak to you very soon.
See you later on, mate. God bless you.
God bless.
Merry
Thank
Christmas,
you.
Mate. Bye.
And you too. Bye. Bye.